David Show.
And another great day in this greatest nation on God's green earth. A great day when, however you happen to feel about the president, his reassuring, statesman-like words have caused markets to go up everywhere, have absolutely put the country on a better course. And congratulations, Mr. President. No, I'm not talking about President Trump right now. I'm talking about President Xi of China, who actually gave a remarkably conciliatory series of statements about tariffs, which are beginning to sound like a big win for him and for President Trump and for all Americans. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up almost 500 points in reaction to the idea that China isn't going to play games with this trade war thing. That's very good news. But it doesn't mean that peace has broken out everywhere. There is still a crisis brewing in Syria. The president had indicated he would have a decision soon, but he indicated last night that it was most likely that he would only make an announcement about it after whatever action is taken is taken. He's canceled a trip to Latin America in order to stay around Washington. General Mattis, the defense secretary, has also canceled travel plans. So something serious is brewing. Will it involve some confrontation with Putin's Russia? Probably not, but we will see. Meanwhile, while we're waiting for some warlike actions on Syria, while peace seems to have broken out in the potential trade war between the U.S. and China, there is total war at the moment, it seems, between President Trump and the Mueller investigation. He has, for the very first time, spoken publicly about the possibility of firing Robert Mueller. And there are all sorts of warnings, including warnings from very prominent Republicans, like the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Robert Grassley of Iowa, warnings that President Trump would be damaging himself terribly if he did fire Mueller. So what should the president do? To speak about that, we're going to welcome onto the show in a few minutes Professor Alan Dershowitz, who has emerged as one of President Trump's strongest defenders. He agrees with President Trump that the raid yesterday on Michael Cohen's law offices and the apartment and the home of President Trump's personal attorney. Professor Dershowitz agrees that this is way out of line, this was totally inappropriate, and that President Trump is right to be furious about it. Okay, so we'll ask Professor Dershowitz what he wants, what he would advise the president to do to deal with this emerging situation. Last night, or shortly after I went off the air, so that would be sometime after 6 o'clock Eastern Time, President Trump was meeting with his top generals, and it was an impressive sight. I mean, there he was sitting at a long table, and there were generals and admirals sitting on all sides of him. Right next to him, on his right-hand side, was Vice President Pence. On his left-hand side, John Bolton, on his first day in office as the National Security Advisor. No Secretary of State, because we don't have a Secretary of State right now, because the Congress is dragging its feet in confirming Mike Pompeo, which I hope they will do. In any event, they went to President Trump live at this table full of people, and most of the cable networks expected President Trump would be talking about Syria. And I think it's very clear, and President Trump indicated as much, he would have preferred to talk about Syria. But instead, he got distracted to say this.
So I just heard that they broke into the office of one of my personal attorneys, good man, and it's a disgraceful situation. It's a total witch hunt. I've been saying it for a long time. I've wanted to keep it down. We've given, I believe, over 1 million pages worth of documents to the special counsel. They continue to just go forward, and here we are talking about Syria. We're talking about a lot of serious things with the greatest fighting force ever. And I have this witch hunt constantly going on for over 12 months now. And actually much more than that. You could say it was right after I won the nomination it started. And it's a disgrace. It's frankly a real disgrace. It's an attack on our country in a true sense. It's an attack on what we all stand for.
Okay, an attack on our country and an attack on what we all stand for. This was not, when he used the term break-in, he may have been trying to evoke memories of the Watergate break-in. That was a famous unauthorized illegal break-in. This was not that. This was authorized by the Justice Department. It was authorized not just by the special counsel, Robert Mueller, but it presumably had to go through Rod Rosenstein. It was then referred to the U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of Manhattan, the current acting U.S. Attorney, who hasn't been confirmed yet, whose name is Jeffrey Berman, apparently recused himself from this issue, but it was people in his office who actually directed the FBI agents, under the direction of another Trump appointee, Christopher Wray, who went in to Michael Cohen's office. And everyone involved with this has made clear that they were not looking for information on President Trump. They were looking for information on a suspected crime by Michael Cohen. And what kind of suspected crime? Well, people think it might involve an illegal campaign contribution of $130,000 when you have campaign contribution limits of $5,000. So you're talking about 25 times above what you're allowed to contribute, in the form of a payoff to Stormy Daniels. The whole thing isn't great, but for President Trump, it represents a new level of unfairness.
So when I saw this and when I heard it like you did, I said, that is really now in a whole new level of unfairness. So this has been going on. I saw one of the reporters who is not necessarily a fan of mine, not necessarily very good to me. He said, in effect, that this is ridiculous. This is now getting ridiculous. They found no collusion whatsoever with Russia. The reason they found it is there was no collusion at all. No collusion.
Okay, and when he concluded, and he kept using terms like disgrace and unfair and total witch hunt, he also tweeted out this morning, total witch hunt. He was asked toward the conclusion of his remarks, not about a pending military strike on Syria, but about a strike against an enemy that is concerning President Trump, it seems, even more right now. Listen.
Why don't I just fire Mueller? Well, I think it's a disgrace what's going on. We'll see what happens, but I think it's really a sad situation when you look at what happened. And many people have said you should fire him. Again, they found nothing. And in finding nothing, that's a big statement. If you know the person who's in charge of the investigation, you know all about that, Deputy Rosenstein, Rod Rosenstein. He wrote the letter very critical of Comey. One of the things I said, I fired Comey. Well, I turned out to do the right thing, because you look at all of the things that he's done and the lies, and you look at what's gone on at the FBI with the insurance policy and all of the things that happened. Turned out I did the right thing. But he signed, as you know, he also signed the FISA warrant. So Rod Rosenstein, who's in charge of this, signed a FISA warrant, and he also signed a letter that was essentially saying to fire James Comey. And he was right about that. He was absolutely right. So we'll see what happens. I think it's disgraceful, and so does a lot of other people. This is a pure and simple witch hunt.